views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Good day. You are listening to Ability Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Hedley-Lamont of the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. And today, the word for today is elections. And our very special guest today is Alecia Wells. She is the chairwoman of the Virgin Islands Board of Elections. Good day, Miss Wells. How are you?
Good day, Jamelia. How are you? I am well. As we said earlier, it's been a good while since we haven't even mentioned each other's names, probably not to each other.
That's right.
Great. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation. And I trust that the information we'll be sharing with the public will be well received and something that would help at least one person to be able to get a better understanding of what the board does and with this election cycle, because we're now in full election mode.
I see. I've had an opportunity to look at your calendar and see you will be very busy over the course of many weeks. Just for background information, what is the role of the Board of Elections? Tell us what do the members of the Board of Elections do?
Well, there are 14 members on the Board of Election. We have to seek election to the Board of Election from our district. There's a St. Croix district and there's a St. Thomas, St. John district. So there are two districts. Mm-hmm. We used to have a joint board where we had a board in St. Croix and a board in St. Thomas, St. John, and that has been changed by legislation. We now have one board. We have the chair, which is from one particular district, and that's an elected position within the board. The board members vote on that chair. Once the person is elected at the meeting that the other elected officials attend, one chair is elected, a vice chair, and a secretary. The chair comes from one district, mm-hmm. the vice chair from another district, and the secretary usually is from the district that houses the chairman. For example, I'm chair and the secretary is from the St. Thomas, St. John district. This year, we have a vice chair who's also from the same district. Mm-hmm. That normally doesn't happen often because it's best to have input from both districts.
Right.
We meet quarterly. We do mostly registration. Mm-hmm. Okay. Registration to get persons registered, mm-hmm. in that same word, so that they can vote in the upcoming elections. We've had a change by legislation also. A lot of tasks that were previously, like in the last 20 years or more, done by the board is now the job of the supervisor of election. Okay. We do mostly registration, and then we have machine testing. And today is a good day. Today is a day that persons can go to the various election offices in their district and look at the machines that are going to be used in the primary election come August 5th.
Right.
Questions. I know that one question we had that persons used to ask about persons who were incarcerated. If you're at one of our correctional facilities and you've just been arrested, you haven't been
convicted of anything, right?
Convicted or anything, you're not a felon, we can go there once we know that you're there and you'd like to have us come and register you to vote.
Now, how would somebody who is incarcerated be able to even contact your office?
Well, I imagine they would have to go through persons in charge at the prison, but the persons in charge will call the office. Mm-hmm. Our office number on St. Thomas is 340-776-2391. That's St. John, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And 340-773-4523 in St. Croix, or 774-3107 in St. Thomas. And then the supervisor of the prison will let us know there are 1, 2, 3, or whatever number of inmates who would like to be registered, and the board members will go there. And I'm telling you, that's an experience. I did it one time.
Oh, okay.
And we'll go there and we'll fill out the applications like as if they were in our office. And we would take that back to the office. And then when it's time for the voting, we would take the ballot to them and have them vote on their ballots and seal their ballots. And then we would take it back to the office to be counted. So nobody is disenfranchised. And of course, we have absentee ballots, and we also have, I'm hoping in my lifetime, I'll be able to see us vote from our phones at home in our living room, because I think that is going to get more young people involved, because a lot of times the young people are working and they're so much into their iPhone and their iPad and their whatever, they can't or won't leave to go and register to vote. So I think that's one thing that the entire board, in addition to the election system of the Virgin Islands, are going to be pushing that we get voting from any device in your house.
Now, point of clarification, it's my understanding that the primary election day is this Saturday, August 3rd, correct?
Primary, I'm just checking also. Primary election, August, the casting of lots.
Right. So that's correct. So it would be today, August 3rd, for our purposes. Okay. Yeah. Let me ask you this. What is required? I mean, when you're doing the registration as a member of the elections board of elections, what is required for a person to be able to vote? Because you've already covered one thing.
Any copies of anything, because we like to make our own copies, because when we see a copy of something, we don't know it's a copy of what, but when we see the original, so you can bring your passport, your DD 214 for persons who've been in the service, naturalization paper. We would take the birth certificate, but our birth certificates have no picture on it. So the passport, I think, will be the best thing for you to bring. Wherever there's a voter's registration drive, it's usually for 2 hours or more. You take that. There's a board member there that will fill out a form, put all that information on the election system form, and then we would give you, if we don't have in the office, you can get your voter's registration card right away, which looks almost like a driver's license. Because we don't move the machine back and forth for obvious reason.
Right.
We'll give you a card that has a seal on it, and you can use that to vote with. If you want to take that card into one of our offices, and you'll give that up, and then you'll sit and get your picture ID taken, because there's no picture on the card. You may do that, or you could just vote with the card that you would be given at your initial registration time.
Okay. So in order to be a qualified elector, that's another word that's used, I noticed quite a bit, you have to be a U.S. citizen or naturalized citizen, correct?
Correct.
18 years old or older.
Yes.
And meet a residency requirement. What is that? Do you know, what is that residency requirement?
Well, I think I'm not sure. I think the residency requirement is 30 days. I know that we've had different persons offering different thoughts on the time.
Right.
But I think it's 30 days, and I'm going to check on that before this program is over, so I could be sure to give correct information.
Okay. Well, we're only a phone call away, so
yes,
that's not a problem. Yes. There's another piece that was discussed, a topic of conversation within the disability rights world, and that was some language that suggested that you can vote provided that you are not adjudged mentally incompetent as to your ability to vote, which in my mind is a very rare situation. I mean, why would an individual go to a court and say, this person is not competent to vote? I think if I'm following that language very strictly, I think I tend to err on your side as far as there's no limits or very few restrictions with respect to being able to go to the polls and, cast a ballot. So I just wanted to.
Correct. I've never had that situation in my time on the board.
Right. I'd be shocked if you did.
Yes, I
if you
would.
did. Right. So, and obviously another requirement is that you're not registered elsewhere. And I know we
Right.
can.
What we do also is you're asked that's part of the registration process, and you're asked, are you registered to vote someplace else? And all we can do is whatever you tell us, right?
Right.
And if you say you're registered to vote in Arizona, and I would ask you when last you voted in Arizona, because that's a question on the application form.
Mm-hmm.
And if you said I voted the last election there, then there's a form I would give you. You would fill that out, say, because you can't be registered to vote in two places.
Right.
And so there's a form you would fill out saying that you're now registering to vote in the United States Virgin Islands and you'd like to cancel your registration in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll fill that form out and you'll sign it. And then that the assistants in the office
Mm-hmm.
will get in touch with the assistant in Arizona, and you would be canceled in Arizona. So your only place to vote would be then in the Virgin Islands. But like we say, it's only what you tell us we would know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Understood.
the process that we would use. You fill out the form and then we send it, or we have a conversation. Not the board members do it. Someone in the office at the election system would do that.
Well, one of the things I noticed, I did a little research on you this morning, and one of the statements that you had made is that, in your tenure as chairperson of the Board of Elections you want to make sure that there's more public education, right, in order to enhance the election experience. And one of the things I wanted to at least let our listening audience know about is that there will be a voting expo that will be sponsored by the VI election system, AARP, and the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. It will be held in St. Croix on Tuesday, August 13th, at the Sunny Isle Pavilion from 10 to 3 p.m. And music will be featured by the 10 Sleepless Nights. And in St. Thomas, it will be held on Thursday, August 15th at Tutu Park Mall, also from 10 to 3, music by Quell Bay Resurrection. So we're trying to make the education process a little bit more fun. What do you think, Ms. Wells?
I think that's wonderful. Tutu Park Mall is an excellent venue. I know almost all of the persons in Quell Bay Resurrection. So it's good music. So you can go, register, and dance, which is a good thing to be able to do. And it's a stress-free area. It's air conditioned. It's comfortable. It's cool. And you can shop if you want to, or a lot of people like to go to those expos because they get free things.
Yes.
They get information. They get to see their friends who they haven't seen for a while. So I hope that all the persons listening will go out on the 13th in St. Croix or the 15th on St. Thomas to take advantage of this opportunity. Can I ask if there's any means of transportation set up for persons from St. John to Tutu Park Mall? Or you?
Good question. What I would suggest is for more information that an individual should call our office at 772-1200. That's an excellent question. Yeah, that's an excellent question. Because one of the again, topics of conversation within the Disability Rights Network is what kinds of supports are being offered, particularly for voters with disabilities, right?
Exactly.
And so arguably that transportation, accessible transportation would be one. Now, as a matter of practice, the Disability Rights Center does not provide those kinds of services. But, I think a question should be asked. How can that be facilitated? And since...
Especially coming from St. John, that's always a problem.
Right. No, totally understandable. So, yeah, I would recommend that our audience please call 772-1200 for more information about the expo and how to make it a successful event, which we hope it will be and trust that it will be. I also learned that the election results in 2022, we had a voter turnout of about 57%. What's your take on that, Ms. Wells?
57%.
Total, yeah.
I think it's fair, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
We should always try to do better.
Mm-hmm.
We know that on the year when there's no gubernatorial election, the turnout is always less.
Mm.
So I imagine that this year it'll probably be a lot less than it will be in 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we have a gubernatorial election, more people show up and are interested in that. Then because of all of the news that we've been getting about all the corruption, and a lot of persons and a lot of my friends also are telling me they're not going. I say, when you don't go, you're actually voting for whoever wins.
Right.
So I think 57% is okay, but we should always strive to do better and higher. I'd like to hear like a 80% voters turnout or better.
Right.
But I think this year is going to be, I think this year, this coming election in November is going to be less than that. That's my personal prediction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I just, like I said, in speaking to voters who are my friends and relatives, they tell me, well, I'm not going because they're all a bunch of crooks and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but when you don't go, you're actually voting for whoever wins.
Right.
And, we've worked hard to get this vote.
Right.
Worked very hard to get this vote. So you need to go. I said that we've given you all kinds of means to vote. You have an absentee ballot. We had early voting. We just try to make it so that it's available to anyone who wants to have it available to them. So we need to try really hard to go out there. But this year, I think it's going to be a lot less than that. But come 2 years from now, we're going to be back up in the percentage.
Okay. Some jurisdictions, not that I'm advocating for this, I just recently came back from a trip in South America, and I was told in the country of Ecuador, everyone is required to vote. If you don't vote, you get fined.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know. I had that same reaction. So you better believe it looked like almost 100% vote, because no one is going to be paying for not voting.
Wow.
And again,
Well,
I'm not
for those
advocating.
persons who I wonder how to make sure
Yeah,
that you vote. They must go house to house.
I don't know. I didn't
Whoa.
want but yeah, I mean, that's how seriously some jurisdictions take the process, right? So your approach makes a lot of sense. Public education, encouragement, and for me, from my observation, the voting process was a way to see your friends, be involved. It was a fun day, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of people do not go to early voting. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
I don't see all my friends that day, and it's like those family picnics that you would see where people have their baskets of food and they go and sit under the tree. Because I remember a few years ago at the election office in Lockett Garden, one Sunday, I'll never forget that one Sunday, the line was almost down the mall because persons would go to church and then they came to early vote. And of course, they saw their friends there because they planned it. And it was like a really good socialization thing. And people loved that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. No, that's how it always felt. And I do appreciate, I believe it was a fairly, well, don't date me. I'm thinking it's recent, but when I say recent, it might be 7 or 10 years ago. But the fact that, a person, right. So the canvassing, I do appreciate that the canvassing was kept at a distance, because in the past that used to be very intrusive, somebody coming up to you.
Yes. And that's a good thing that has happened. And one other thing is we now have voting centers, and sometimes you'll have to leave one area where you're doing something, your personal business, to get to where you're supposed to vote. Now you can go to any voting center and vote there.
That is an excellent change.
And everything. Yeah. So
Right.
you don't have to rush from one end of the island to the other to vote. You just go into the nearest voting center and you get to vote. So that's a good thing.
Do you think the public really understands that? Because that is such a revelation.
It's no, I don't think the older persons, and
Right.
I use that term loosely because we're all old.
Right. Yeah.
But from habit, we know that if we lived in, and I can only talk about the Virgin Islands. No, I know my uncle lived in LaGrange, so I could talk about that. If you lived in LaGrange, you had to go to the certain voting center that was near there.
Right.
Now, because if he's in Christiansted delivering some food, he doesn't have to go all the way back to LaGrange to vote. He can go to wherever a center is in that area. And I think the more we talk about that, the more the public will see how much easier
Right.
and convenient the system is making it for you to cast your vote.
Right.
And also, and I've used it, if you're in a wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
the judge is the person that's in charge of the voting center, that they can bring the voting machine down to where you're comfortable in the chair. You don't have to get out of the chair, the DS200 or the express vote, and you can bring it right down to your level so you can vote like that. Now, I like the express vote because to me, you get a chance to make your own ballot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once a person going to the voting center, they can ask to use any one of those means to vote. It's up to you.
Now, an express
So
vote is that.
we're trying to make it so that,
Mm-hmm.
and a good segue is that today, the testing the electronic voting machines and the tabulating equipment,
Right.
and these have all been certified by the board for the primary election. So today, the public is welcome to go into any election office and look at and ask question about the voting machine and see how they work.
Now, by express vote, you're talking about the electronic machines, the electronic voting machines?
And the DS200, the express vote is the one where you're given a choice and you pick your choice. You're actually making your own ballot.
Okay.
And then you take that ballot, that piece of paper, and then you put it in the machine and that counts your vote. I particularly like that.
Right.
And I've introduced that to a lot of seniors and some persons with disability on St. John, and they were eager to try that, which I was happy to see because the younger people didn't want to try it most of the time.
Right. Now, how is that different from the paper ballot? Because I think they still
do that.
It doesn't
matter. You can have any means you can use.
Right. Okay. You have a choice.
Express vote, you have a choice. Like it says, I like apple, oranges, or grapes. You can choose which one of those you want. And you're really making your own ballot according to the choices that are given to you.
That's very
good. And once you've made your choice, there's a card that you would put in the machine at the outset. And that would list your choices. It also says in number 1, you voted for grape. Number 2 question, you voted for this. It tells you exactly what you voted for before you say, okay, this is what I want. And then once you've done that and this ballot that you made comes back out to you, then you just put it in the DS200 and that counts your ballot. It's very interesting.
And very efficient, apparently.
Yes,
now, I believe before we opened up this conversation, you had talked about we're hoping that we can move towards a day in which, or maybe we've already discussed it, but I think it needs to be repeated to make the voting process more convenient. And that is, for example, using your phone or your iPhone or your iPod tablet or whatever tablet you use to vote.
Yes.
Is there any movement afoot in that direction here locally?
We've talked about it at our board meeting. We've talked about it with the supervisor where we're looking at means, like people don't like change.
Yeah.
We're just so comfortable in what we're doing. We don't like change. So it's going to be a gradual thing, but I'm hoping to see that in my lifetime. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. We're getting board members who are more people are interested in seeking a seat on the board of election, which is good. So of course, those persons we imagine will be bringing new ideas. But I think, that is one way we're going to get younger voters involved because I've talked to a number of former students and I keep telling them you need to run for this or you need to get on board, get on a committee, get on anything to get your name out there. And then eventually said, oh, but I can't leave because I can't leave my job. So hopefully we'll have persons who could probably sit at their job site with their iPhone or whatever and vote from right there as those who are home or wherever. And I think that would empower people more to know that you don't have to get up and go to a voting center. You don't have to move from where you are. You can be in your car and using your phone to vote.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would really help with the process and getting people involved.
Well, again, for more information, please call 772-1200. Again, I want to bring to everyone's attention that there will be a voting expo with the VI election system, the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands, and AARP in St. Croix. It's Tuesday, August 13th at the Sunny Isle Pavilion from 10 to 3. Music with the 10 Sleepless Nights. St. Thomas, August 13th, Thursday, Tutu Park Mall from 10 to 3, and the music will be provided by the Quilbe Resurrection.
If you have questions, St. Croix 773-1021. St. Thomas 774-3107. But if you have concerns, try to get down to look at the machines.
Do that.
A lot of persons, when they come on election, they are somewhat intimidated. Don't be. It's only
Don't be intimidated.
who are working there,
Right.
and they're there to help you.
Right.
The judge, I said, is a person who you would speak to if there's any problem.
And we'll need to wrap up. I'm getting the clock on the wall says.
Yes.
Thank
your
you.
absentee ballots should be mailed if you have them by August 3rd. Don't forget.
Okay, we will do that.
5 o'clock.
We will do that. I will thank you so much for your insight, your service to the community, and I wish everyone well during this election season. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.